yet, so odds are no one's gonna hold you accountable anyway. All right, how's it going? What are you up to?
Yeah, just it's been a long week. It's only Tuesday. Lots going on.
Yeah. How so?
Trying to get one of my two sort of solopreneur projects out the door for a new version because I've got two people who want to be trying out the onboarding of it, which is very cool. And then of course I keep hitting it and like, oh wait, there's another error, and trying to go through that QA process, right? So it feels like I'm walking through that problem. Yeah.
Which projects are you trying to get out?
Today, this week, it's my phone to email project.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, explain that. That is a cool project. Explain to me what you're working on there.
Yeah, sure. So the idea is it's a phone number that you can hand out and it will never ring. It will, people who call it, they get a voicemail message and they leave a voicemail, or they can text it with text. And either next morning or end of the day or at some point later on, you can get a digest of everybody who's called with transcripts of the calls, with what the message was. The idea being that this allows you to remain reachable while at the same time not having your time be interrupted. So it's trying to solve a problem I've been having of wanting to do deep work and not be interrupted. Mm-hmm. Right, so I get back to them when it's convenient for me to get back to them, as opposed to when they just sort of chose to call. Especially when about 80% of my calls are, I don't know about you all, but like I give lots of high quality communication channels, but most of my calls are spam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And it's funny, right? Because I think a lot of people have the habit today to let it go to voicemail anyway,
mm-hmm.
and then just check that later on. But instead of calling my super annoying voicemail, like I don't know how that system is just so, I don't know, for me at least, it's, I hate it. Like it takes forever, right? Versus if it just came to my email, that'd be great. Hey, Steve.
Hey, man.
How's it going, man?
What's going on?
I was just talking about the abyss of voicemails, I guess, and how Ray is building a product which sends your voicemails to your email.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of people calling me though.
Right. Yeah, I definitely hear that. Actually, that's one of the key economics of it, is that it's not going to get swamped with lots of talk time, right? Because people who are using it are more inclined to have fewer calls anyway.
Oh, yeah. I guess, yeah, I guess maybe like
everybody.
Busy people with friends, like salespeople.
Right. People who want to be called are a different category of people who don't want to be called.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, Timo, what are you up to?
Not much, actually. I just finished work. Now I was planning to start working on Plot Maniac. And yeah, but I thought I'll give the virtual coffee meeting a try real quick and start afterwards. So not much.
Nice.
What are you guys talking about?
I just got my first. Let me get back to that in a second. I just literally right now, I just got my first fully automated cohort number 3 sign up.
Nice.
And I just got a notification on that on Slack through Airtable, all no code. Love it.
Sweet.
Congratulations.
Cool.
Hey, Chap.
Hey, Chap.
With payment integration and everything. I love it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, by the way, this is a good topic, Steve. So,
Yo.
Not to make fun of you here, but I have to tell the story that Steve was in cohort 1, and we talked a lot about how to get the first customer. And I think about a week ago, he realized he already had 3 pre-sales he didn't know about. And so therefore, you need that automation to send you a notification in Slack.
Yeah, I know. That was so stupid. didn't even bother to check, my sales dashboard or anything. And like there was a sale in January or a pre-sale just sitting there, and then in February 2 more popped up. So I haven't even checked it since. So maybe there's another one. Or
Well, did you look into if there's any setting issues with why you're not getting the notification? Because Gumroad definitely sent me notifications when I get sales.
really, I didn't even look into it. I should probably do.
Steve, was that the only thing on your success criteria that you didn't make? So like, should you have gotten your $100 back?
No, I didn't make the second. I wanted 2 for January, 2 sales. But I only got 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I would have still felt better if you. Well, actually, I don't know if it would have felt better or worse because technically you were super close to it then.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's always a struggle when you almost have it, but then
That's all right. Learning.
Hey, congratulations on the pre-sales though, because I know it's news and it feels like it's a little bit missed from a timing point of view, but that means there's some latent demand out there.
Yeah, I mean that it definitely feels awesome. After just going through a slog of nothingness, and then something pops up. Cool. There's some signals there, so I'll take that all day long, even if it's just 3 sales.
do you keep working on the project or?
Yeah. So right now, development is a little delayed. The thing that I'm trying to do right now is just have conversations with those 3 initial people, and just to learn a little more about where they came from, because I have no idea where they came from. So that's my focus right now. And then hopefully I can have the first version out. I'm hoping by mid-month or close to the end of the month. Yeah. A lot of things escape me because I'm not a technical guy. So like having like the payment flows set up through Stripe, having a proper landing page and flow. Visitor comes, they sign up, they purchase, they get on the product. I just want to make sure that all those steps are like frictionless, so they can just get on and I can start learning where and how they're using the product. So that's where I'm at right now. Just kind of learning as I go.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, I don't have a let's say a sales option on my page yet, because that's not really what I focus on. But I'm really sometimes I'm surprised that like random people find me or find my blog or find my tweets and stuff, and they just come from somewhere, and I don't know how they made the connection, but yeah, it's really interesting.
I know. Cool. That would be the goal, to know where exactly those finer details of where people are telling other people about you. That would be, fantastic to know that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a million tools trying to fix that, right? Or do that for you. And I think that works better if your project's a little bit further along. Like in those early days, it's just tough. But man, it's like, I love that stage, right? Obviously, that's why I'm into startups. I love that very, very early where you're like, every single sign up, you're like, yeah. Just random submissions, Yeah. Like I got.
It's pretty funny. Oh, go ahead, Sven.
Deadlocks. I was just gonna say this week I got 2 submissions for the cohort 3 waitlist, which I put on the website last week, right? That you can even sign up for the waitlist randomly from the website, unsolicited, and this is just the best feeling in the world. It's not even anything paid, right? It's just like, oh, people are interested in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Sven, it was super interesting listening to you guys talking about those referrals. We actually are rolling out So for the guys that are here that don't know what I'm doing, I'm building a used online gear business, and we're rolling out next week a podcast campaign with a podcast company so that they're going to advertise for us on 5 different podcasts and run an ad reel for us. And we're talking to them about that massive struggle of figuring out where people came from. It's just next to impossible to figure out where they're coming from unless they're volunteering that information. So something that we're doing that maybe could apply to you guys is on our purchase page or on your sign up page or whatever, asking the question, how did you hear about us? And then throwing a drop down menu for them, for the user to go select it if they want to. It's not going to be perfect, but it's at least an option that we're exploring.
All right. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a little thing you can do, right? And at least you get some of them filling it out. It's like I find myself actually filling that out most of the time. If it's not like a bigger service or something I sign up for, if it's already something super known, I'm like, I don't really care. But for the smaller things, I actually do find myself filling that out most of the time if they ask.
So did I understand that right? You have two participants basically already from the website for the 3rd cohort, right?
Well, so I structured it differently. I actually have two sign-up processes on the website now. One is public, which is if you go, I actually put quite a bit of more improvements in the UI in the website, I guess, in the content. One is just that's the primary call to action is now sign up for future cohort, right? Sign up for the wait list for the future cohorts. And I called it the wait list because I don't have particular schedules for start dates. So I actually just today set the start week because I'm pretty sure we can fill it by the mid of the month. And I have, and the second form or process workflow I automated is what I mentioned earlier. I think that was before you jumped on, Timo. The actual sign up. So remember, you guys, when I sent you the first kickoff slides, right, with that first form, launch criteria, success criteria, all that stuff. Yeah. That's now all automated so that I can onboard people through the form, filling all of that out. Then they submit. They automatically go to the Stripe integration to submit the deposit for the cohort. And that just came into from the first participant now filled that out. I have 3 confirmed for the current cohort and a couple on maybe for cohort 3.
Okay, yeah, maybe a little suggestion, because I'm not sure, maybe it's just me who missed it again, but what I would find useful actually that we would have access to all of the previous slides, kind of. I mean, I always have to scroll through through Slack and find your links that you're posted, but sometimes when I fill out, like, let's say the form for next week, I don't even exactly know the wording anymore for what I had planned for this week. Of course I know what I had planned, but maybe there are some issues that I forgot. So it would be good that we would have access to the other slides, kind of.
Yeah. Well, you have access, right? So the simple answer is bookmark them.
Yeah, I know. But something more convenient would be nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the goal, right? Like the goal is to integrate that all in a platform, but that platform doesn't exist yet. So as I go little by little, I'm building that out, right? So the first step was to get the onboarding form that's working now. The second step is to give you guys a form to fill out the updates instead, right? Not just the kickoff, but the updates. But then we also talked about, potentially changing to a video update. Actually, Ray was one of the people who gave us feedback on the format so far on the cohort. So thanks for that. So we'll iterate on that. And then once all of that is in place, as I build it little by little, it should be automatically rendered on the cohort page, right? Which that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a cohort. Well, there is such a thing as a cohort page, but it's manually built by me, right? It's static. It's a static page. But yeah, that I would love to do that eventually. Hopefully for cohort 3, that could be there.
That's cool.
Timo, there's also. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask Timo what he was building.
Oh, I'm building a platform for writers and storytellers, basically, where they can conveniently manage their plots and stories, because I found the problem myself. I was trying to write a book, or I'm still trying actually.
Yeah.
But I like with most tools I found online, it's really hard to keep track of everything, because depending on which genre you're writing in, it gets complex really quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm a kind of a logical person,
Yeah.
and I rather have everything like I want to connect everything, and I want to keep track of it. But sometimes you change things on the fly, especially when you write. For example, you rename your characters, so maybe you just remove characters, or you remove whole chapters because it's not really good for the reader.
Right.
But then you still want to keep track of like what you removed and what you changed and how you rearranged everything. And I found that really hard with the tools that exist already.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like a writing / world building platform, kind of, where people can organize their thoughts a little bit.
Oh, okay.
That's the idea there. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So, what were you saying? I cut Ray off.
No. I was just sort of thinking a little bit about what the conversation between Timo and Sven, and the tension that there sometimes is between the issue of like validating your value hypothesis, right? How are we creating value, as you are like with the coStarting cohorts, right? Versus the issue of automation and trying to make it cheap and easy to do, right? And so like Timo's commentary, like this stuff is still kind of hard to go fill out, but which is a little bit in tension with Sven's problem of figuring out, well, what is the data that needs to be gotten, right? How does it create value and drive things forward? And trying to do both those things at the same time is a really hard lift. And it's tempting by a lot of particularly engineering types to try to probably put more time into the automation part. But keeping the discipline on, no, what's the value, and allowing that part to be more manual, I think is something that often separates success from failure, especially in the indie hacker community, where you don't have the money to do both at the same time. So you have to choose whether you're walking or chewing gum.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's kind of the tightrope I'm trying to walk, right? Like, or the fine line, I guess, I'm trying to walk, where how much do I automate? Because I totally agree. I'm in that category. I'm an engineer, right? Like, I love that stuff. I literally worked for an automation company in the past, so automate everything. But actually, what you're saying has a lot of truth, where sometimes if it's a bit more complicated, that acts as a filter almost, right? Where like you actually need to put in the work. Now, I agree with Timo, like finding slides, that's not the type of work I want to put you through, right? Like finding the information should be easy, but I do want you to think through, what are you updating, right? It's like a silly and different example, but it's like a survey. If you give them your audience just a drop down of 5 choices, they're going to do it more with a higher percentage, but you're getting way less information, right? Versus if you're like, what did you like about whatever the survey is about, right? And then it's a free form.
There's this great story from Jack Stack, the great game business guy, where he talks about how getting people to pay attention to metrics was a matter of, initially they had these great dashboards stuff, and nobody was paying attention to the numbers until they made it part of their company meetings. Everyone had to write down the numbers by hand. And once they did that, everyone was paying attention. Sort of tells, I think Sven's kind of getting to the value prop of what you were just getting at there.
Awesome. Hey Lou, how's it going?
Good. Sorry, just got back to the computer here.
No worries, no worries. Cool. So we were just talking about something before you guys showed up. I just ran into a use case, and I had this before, and I was wondering if someone feels the same and maybe knows about a solution for it. So you guys, or how one runs into casual connections or domain connected connections, right? Topic specific connections on the internet with people. For me, a particular example was, it's on Facebook. We posted an update video on our YouTube channel, and I shared it on a couple Facebook groups. and then there was a conversation with one of the Facebook group members back and forth, and I think it would be valuable to stay connected with that person, because at some point in the future, I see value in picking that connection back up. But it's a Facebook group. If we connect on Facebook, I'm never gonna remember that name in 6 months from now when that topic comes back up, right? And I mean, it's Facebook friends. I don't know how on top of it you guys are, but is there anything which lets you connect with people based on a specific topic? You know, like let's say I'm researching building earthships, right? Like as a house. And there are certain people I have been in conversation with, even on YouTube. Someone had a video about it, right? And I want to stay in touch because we are both working on a similar topic, and I would love to share our learnings. But other than connecting on one of the generic social media platforms, there really isn't anything, and I don't want it to be in my general universe, right? I want it to be organized by topic. Here's all the people I know about who love earthships, right? Here's all the people who I know about who are indie hackers. Sure, I could start a Slack channel for everything, but that kind of seems a little overkill.
I was just thinking, Sven, there's not really a good answer. I leverage Slack workspaces immensely. Like, not ones that I'm creating or necessarily facilitating, but I engage in about 6 different Slack workspaces of things that I work in and I'm interested in. And that's been a really meaningful way. It's a lot of information, right? I am constantly getting Slack notifications and I have to pick and choose what I'm actually consuming. But in terms of getting really close with people, I've had a lot of success in those workspaces, but you do need to get invited to them.
Yeah, I have a bunch of those too, but that's a different kind of use case, right? I'm thinking of, because for whatever reason, I already established a connection with someone, be that in the real world, be that online, be that on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. And then I want to take that connection just a slight step forward and assign a label to both of us. It's like, hey, this is what we were talking about, and this is what we're going to kind of stay connected about, right? Because you all know there's like whatever the number is, you can only have like 300 valuable connections or something until your brain stops being able to process them at any given point in time. I don't know, don't quote me on that number. So, you know, I like just how I organize my information, I kind of want to organize my friends or connections in a way.
Are you planning on keeping those relationships in that specific channel, or were you thinking of basically extracting those out into, let's say, a CRM or something like that, where it's, you know, a central database for yourself?
That's the only thing I could think of. I do that actually on specific topics in my projects. I cluster people in my CRM or in Notion or something in CRM style to the topics, but that's one way, right? That's just for me. Like I would like to have that both ways, right? So Lou, we meet, we talk about, you know, startup stuff, and we're like, hey, we should stay connected, right? And we did, and we connected on Facebook, but that was now one deeper rooted connection because we actually stayed in touch over time. But there's many people who I just know one thing, and whenever that comes back up in my head, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now, I need to find that person again. And it'd be nice if that was a mutual understanding, right? Kind of like, hey, you know, like we should stay connected. And then the next time you're in Florida, let's go have a beer or something, right? How often do you guys say that to someone? It's like, oh, yeah, you should check me out if you're in town, right? Let's go grab a drink. And you don't remember these conversations because that's the last time you ever talked. 3 years later, there was someone. What was their name, right? That I don't know of anything like that.
But even if you do remember those conversations, usually I think, yeah, I mean, it's just the thing you say. If you meet a random person, say, yeah, if you're in town next time, let's go have a beer. Then who does that actually?
Yeah.
Who goes into the town and then meets that exact random person again? I don't know. But
well, the question is, why don't they? Right?
Yeah,
is it because they don't want to?
I don't know. But in general, I think it's a pretty good idea, and in some sense, LinkedIn is kind of for that. I mean, it's for business connections, right? And sometimes you just add random people who work in the same area or in areas where you're interested in working, kind of, or you want to get some knowledge, and you connect with them, and then you can stay in touch with them. But it's not really, let's say, a specific project you're working on or a specific, I don't know, topic. It's a little bit broader than that. But I think LinkedIn works quite similar, I think, to what you've intended.
But I can still not find them, no matter if I connect them on LinkedIn or Facebook. If I forget their name or the company they work for or some attribute about them, I can't find them, right? Basically, what I want, I think, is a social network which lets me tag people. Here, Stan, right? Oh, coStarting. We talked about this because that's how I organize my information. If we have a meeting, I write my notes in Notion and I tag them because then I can filter them. I can search for them. That doesn't exist for connections. I even save people in my phone like that. I write down Timo from Grunewald, coStarting, right? Whatever we talked about. However I met you, that's how you are saved forever in my phone.
I know I have like a lot of contacts in my phone. I don't know who they are. So it's just like, could that have been somebody I could have linked up with? You know, at some point they had some good insight on something. I know that would be kind of helpful to like call it like lost contacts or something like that, and like have the ability to take all those contacts that you haven't really used and to somehow find a name for those numbers, and maybe it reaches out to them for you. You know, like, who are you? Or something like that.
I think I get some of those robo dials sometimes.
Well,
Like,
I
you
could
could
work on
do
a
it.
robot.
You could do it yourself, like make a Trello board or something that had like the different categories of like coStarting, travel, whatever. But then you'd have to go and input that information every time you make a connection with someone, which just doesn't seem right. Like the other day, a girl connected with me on Facebook because I posted a picture of my dog and paddleboarding with dogs, and she sent me a friend request and we started talking, and she's like really cool, and like we started talking about free campsites and travel and all this stuff. But I can totally see if like in 2 years or something, right now I remember her name, but in the future I'm gonna completely forget why we even talked in the first place. And then if I'm thinking, oh, who do I know that paddleboards and travels?
Yeah.
You know, I would never think of her name.
Just like a key, like you put a keyword in for that person at that point, or if you travel back in their vicinity, it notifies you, hey, remember this person?
Yeah.
You know, I was just doing some poking around because as of the past 2 years, I've gotten really disciplined about when I add contacts to my phone, making sure to fill out every category that I can. Just on like the standard Google, on like my standard iPhone contacts list, I make sure I put the company. If I know the city that they live in, I try to make sure to do that. Obviously, it doesn't have the cool, hey, if you're in proximity, the notifications, whatever, you still kind of got to remember somewhere. But I mean, I won't put anybody on my phone without a company association anymore, because if I don't do it, I don't know why anybody would be calling. So
I'm sure a lot of mine are from like just being out and like drinking and not remembering who I
Here, put your number in this. Yeah. I don't like, I think there is, everything online is an attempt to this, right? Even Facebook groups are, of course, an attempt to this. But I'm in like 50 Facebook groups for all kinds of different topics. Yeah. And I don't know who in those groups I talked to, who I didn't. So it's just like, I think it's a more intimate layer in a way that I'm looking for to make that connection, right? Like I said, like I talked to her, if we could have said like, hey, we should stay connected. And if there was some sort of easy way to do that, like click a link and then there is a connection and then I can tag it with whatever I want to tag it. And she could, if she wants to. And yeah, you can automatically maybe save metadata, like if it's if there's GPS data available, if you're on your phone, stuff like that. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah,
But
like integrated with, you could integrate it with Facebook and Slack and anything. So you could just be like, save this in casual, whatever you name your platform.
It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys have spotted on Twitter, there's something called readwise.io. And it's if you're trying to save tweets or if you're trying to save content, it essentially you post the link and it automatically saves that content in a different database on a different platform. And that's called readwise.io. And I wonder if the same tech would apply essentially to what you're saying. And it's like contacts.io. And then all of a sudden, then it's over in a CRM manager, where it is, you put the information, remind me to hit them up when I'm in Chicago, whatever it is.
Yeah. Sven, is this something you do usually on your computer or on your phone?
Yeah, that's a good question. These days, probably mostly on the computer because that's just the world we live in because we don't go anywhere. But I think it's both, right? Like, I think, so when we're traveling, like these casual connections you make when you're traveling, it'd be nice to be able to kind of have a better way for that too. I think there were plenty of attempts over the years, right? Like the NFC bump and stuff like that. And then it's, after the connection is made, it's just about contextualizing it and making a better job out of that. But I'm not sure. Mostly online, I think, these days.
Sort of seems like there are three layers you could go at this, right? You could go at this from layer of getting the metadata directly from the service, right? Which require either plugging into the service having to provide that data to you. Facebook's got no real incentive to do that, except they have some Firehose services too, right? Second would be like at the level of like the browser extension, getting data from the client side, being able to say, oh wait, this is important. I want to save this, be able to push the button or have your browser be smart enough to catch that. But the third one, and this is one where it's like phone comes into play, is I kind of wonder whether you might be able to do something clever around imaging, right? Be able to just say, oh, that was a neat screenshot, right? Because one of the things, since all this stuff is text, it actually lends itself really easy to image text, to then provide analysis, which then gives you the prompt to be able to do categorization. Because one way or the other, that seems like the problem is that the connections are so ephemeral, right? That you're not going through the same work that a sales professional would, right? To go fill out their Rolodex. You're trying to make sure you catch that, but not have it be so expensive. You're like, that wasn't worthwhile. And that's why all these pennies are being left on the road.
Right, yeah. That's kind of similar to how Chat was talking about it, right? So I personally use Save to Notion for that, both as a browser extension and on the phone app. They work really well because they extract all that information and then you can tell Notion where to put it, right? So that's kind of a step in between, less engagement on how to save it to your CRM. But I think, I don't know, I was thinking more of it as a connection, really establish a connection, a different, somewhere else, a connection, right, is made from both sides. Both agree to that, kind of,
I think it's got to be like very intentional, like the application is for this, and that other person has to have that application as well, and they have to be in the same mindset as you as at that time. Like they have that need too. They want to make long distance connections,
Yeah.
I think I actually think this might be something that's asynchronous, where you have that. I think there's two thoughts that pop in my mind. The first is I think it's just asynchronous because you have a certain purpose of having that connection with that individual, and that other individual probably has a specific purpose with you. So they may not be identical, but they may just be, hey, you know what, we should still continue to communicate at some point in time. So you have that first piece. And then I think the second piece is you kind of have to apply some very conscious usability or some, like, that connection needs to be used for a certain thing, right? So for example, if you are planning on, let's say, if we're in the same place together, let's go have a beer or a coffee. So that's one specific utility, and then you can kind of apply some logic around it. Otherwise, you just have like this big database of people, and then now what? Then you're still trying to figure out, like, what's that utility? And maybe the other utility would be, hey, you know what? That's anytime I have need to have a conversation about building an Earth ship, then this individuals should come up. So I think it's just a few different problems. I think the first problem is like, how do you gather these people into a singular place that you can organize? And then second, like, how do you layer the utility on top of it? But I think until we define the utility, I think that's the most important thing first, because getting people into a specific CRM is fairly easy, whether it's manual or semi-automated or completely automated. But again, I think we need the context first to kind of really design the foundation.
Yeah, I think you can bring it around to that whole proximity feature. Like you go into the app and you're intentional about meeting people out for beers or talking about a certain topic. And then when you're out, that other person has that application as well. And then when you're in vicinity of that person, you get notified of this person also wants to have a beer and talk about this topic. And then you can link up that way. Like,
yeah, I don't even think that the proximity I see almost as one utility and the topic as another. They can be hand in hand. They don't have to be, though, right? And I'm wondering, again, I think we're like is that an app, a platform, or whatever? Like, let's not define the solution quite yet, but whatever it is, if maybe it can work the same way for topics than it does for proximity, right? Like how we think about proximity notifications now is like, hey, you're in Dallas. Remember that Lou lives in Dallas? He doesn't actually, but and just you configure your notifications, of course, and whatnot, but it could do the same thing for topics, right? Like as I'm browsing, like last night, literally watched a video about Earthships again, right? Maybe this solution can detect that and have a layer on top of that kind of, which reminds me of these connections or something. But again, this is getting too abstract now.
Well, but the three parts of CRM are data collection, storage, and reporting or delivery. And it sounds like and the delivery part is actually a more trivial problem if you have good data in there. The reason why CRMs fail 99 times out of 100 is because people don't get good data into them. So like the thing of, you can always put into a CRM. I mean, as a class of product, it makes sense. But as a technical problem, it seems like one of those eternal things that is always right for a startup type to be coming in and solving by helping people get the data that's actually useful for them at a cost they can actually manage, because people hate all that data entry process.
Yeah.
So there's money in it for someone who wants to go after it.
Wouldn't it be simple enough if we just say, like, back to the original thought or situation which triggered it for me, right? It's like, okay, I have a conversation somewhere with someone about something. Let's forget about the somewhere for a minute. Someone about something. The simplest service just stores exactly those two things, however they're stored. Let's just say I do that manually. And then by doing so, maybe it's just an acknowledgement from the other party, right? Whoever initiates that, it's like, hey, Timo, we connected about Bose headphones. You want to stay in touch and talk more about Bose headphones? I don't know.
What's the important of the connection part? Like the connection part is all the conversation you had, right? It seems like a lot of this is about filing and categorization so that you can be bringing it back, not about a connection, because the connection is a thing that already happened, or so it seems from the story, right? So it seems like you're getting at that connection between social network and CRM, but it's not totally clear to me why those two combined are the important part, or if it's just
because I think you need to align expectations, right? Because just because I talk to someone on Facebook does not mean that they want me to reach out to them 3 years from now at all. That's creepy. I mean, if that was a thing already, right? If that was commonplace, like if you are in an environment where casual connections are kept for the future, maybe. But I wouldn't be upset, but at first it'd be weird if someone just reaches out. It's like, oh, remember we talked 2 years ago on this one Facebook page? I'm in town.
Of course, that's exactly what investors bankers do every day.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also depends on how deep that conversation got, right? Instead of like, hey, remember me? I said hi to you on Facebook like 3
And you
years ago.
didn't reply, but I'm in town now.
Are you into
Yeah.
hoes as well?
That versus like an hour-long conversation, you know. I think there's a little difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so that was just a random, like, low stakes problem I ran into today.
Yeah,
Which I thought about.
it almost sounds like I mean, I'm more thinking of let's say personal connections. Okay, you meet them somewhere at a conference or whatever. It's like more like a digital business card somehow. You want to share it with them, and you want to remember them by their business. Let's say.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Like, I think LinkedIn did the best job so far over the last couple of years for this, especially for a business setting. And I would probably be totally fine personally if it simply allowed me to add comments while I add them, right? If there was one more layer where I have my personalized reminder who that is, because that's how I used to do it when I got business cards handed. In the early days of my career, I turned around, I scribbled down what we were talking about on the back of the business card, because otherwise, forget about it. And it's funny that LinkedIn doesn't have that. I don't know any service which does that. You cannot annotate.
That's weird.
So maybe it's that. Like Emmy said, right? Like, it's you integrate with the platforms. Maybe you start on one end. Let's start on LinkedIn, and it's dangerous because of course you get out of business in like 5 minutes if LinkedIn realizes that's what people like.
I was just gonna say, it feels like there'd be a really cool model spend that's like a digital business card, right? You interact with somebody and then you like give them your personal business card, and then that's an option once you receive the card, right? Which is, hey, like, you know, you have an interaction on Facebook. You say, hey, I really like you. Here's my digital business card. They say, great, here's my digital business card, and you swap them. And then once you receive that email, it says, do you want to put any notes in, Sven? And you say, boom, 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 here's the notes. And then you have all of their information, where they're located, whatever goes into that digital business card.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to Ray's point, if you can automate that, that's the tricky part. But if that digital business card is unique in both directions, like it shows me what I thought this conversation was about, right? If I entered it, or if it scraped the conversation, or however that works, that'd be interesting. Because then I go to Timo's business card and I see Timo as the Bose headphones guy. If Lou goes to Timo's business card, he sees something completely different.
Yeah, but maybe even you can think it a little bit further. I think if a platform like this existed, and let's imagine all people would swap business cards like this, and you date up your information on your business card, maybe all your connections get notified immediately. Okay, he doesn't work at the computer store anymore. He's now, I don't know, delivering pizza or whatever. And so maybe it's
well, LinkedIn does that already.
Yeah, I know, but not everybody's on LinkedIn, and not every let's say business connection you keep there. Some you just meet randomly at the, let's say at a conference or something like this. I don't necessarily go on their LinkedIn profile and store anything, but I keep their business card. Maybe I call them again, but that's it. I mean,
no, I mean, I think LinkedIn is still that use case where I think the personalization is more interesting to me, because like the information you have, which you share already, I can find that. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with just knowing, okay, we're connected on LinkedIn. But my point is, I will never find you again because I forgot your name, company you work for. The only thing I remember is that you're the Bose headphones expert. And that's not on your LinkedIn, right? Because that's what we talked about, but that's not what you shared there. So
you know, this is
get in there.
This is an interesting road that we're going down, because if we look at the way that we're kind of interacting these days, like the way that we go out and meet people, this might be kind of like the new way of exchanging business cards or contact information. Because now, I don't know about some of the services that I've used, is like Lunch Club. I've used Hopin, and just online. A lot of the trade shows are now online, right? Whether it's the HubSpot annual conference or whatever. So now you physically can't give someone a business card anymore because everything is virtual. So maybe there is the way that we're interacting and meeting is changing, and perhaps the way that we collect this information for later follow up is a little bit different. Or
yeah. But
You
I
would
agree.
be-
It seems to be the biggest problem seems to be the one to solve. The rest will follow. What the actual framework is and the format is, I think that will follow. But I do share Ray's point that how we enter it, if we fix that with the best UX so far, that will be the winner.
How about this? How about a simple, like a CRM system, right? Just a simple CRM. Like what data do we need, right? We need to know what we talk to them about, who they are, first name, last name, a way to reach back out to them. So whether it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever. So in kind of the short hacky thing is, let's say we had this conversation, and let's say I'm meeting someone at whatever, Facebook. We had this conversation. I just take a quick screenshot of that conversation that we had, just whether it's the full or a snippet of it, to have enough information there to remind me. Plus it gives you your date, your time. And then on top of that, you add a couple bits of information, right? A couple of tags, a quick note. And then, whether then you put in some type of utility if you want, like, hey, remind me, in 6 months to reach out to this person. Or if I'm ever in Seattle, send me a notification to reach out to this person. It could be kind of hacky that way to start without integrations or anything. But, if we break down to the components that we need to make this work, you may already have it.
Yeah, actually, I like that because I almost see like an open interface there, the API to build those utilities, because we're not gonna figure them all out, right? So far we have, maybe geolocation and topic specific. We'll start there, but then if you let people build the utilities and how to make the connection or how to reestablish the connection in the future, that could be interesting.
API as a service?
Yeah, kind of. So should we start a company together real quick?
Real quick.
No, I'm joking.
Just hop on Stripe Atlas. It'll be done in 10 minutes.
Yeah. This is like.
Oh, but remind me when to think about CRMs later on that you can contact us again about it.
Right. Yeah, these guys are the experts. I don't know if you guys struggle with this, but I have serious idea overload, I guess let's call it. And in the past, I was really like, every time I had a new idea, it's of course the best idea I've ever had, and I was jumping right into it, right? My process now is either talk it out in like a setting like this, and even if the idea got better, I'm probably have it already far enough out of my system that I don't need to build it myself anymore. If I don't have a forum like this, which by the way is one of the reasons why I started this coffee meeting, then I just write it in my notebook, right? If that's digital or actual notebook. And that I know, okay, it's there. I can come back to it, right? I never do actually most of the time, but it's fine. I fed the internal beast, right? Yeah. Does anyone struggle with that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole shiny object syndrome. Like, oh, this sounds really cool. Like when you get that little fire in your belly, like, oh, this is really sweet. Yeah, but as long as you get the idea out, and you make room for more.
Right.
I hand them out. I figure if somebody else, if I have an idea and somebody else picks it up, big guy go with them, and and if nobody's picking up, maybe it wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've done that where I've just said, hey, I half-assed a project. I started it. I liked it. and someone's, you know, struggling to find an idea, here, take it, see what you can do with it. You know.
How do you hand them out, Ray? Do you have like, I just kind of tweeting about it, or do you have any framework for that?
I don't really have a super framework for it. In like a conversation I have subsequently, I'll often pilot different ideas I've been thinking about in the context of questions people have asked. I've done that a couple times so far today, and basically just to see what floats, you know. But the other thing I started doing with a partner of mine, because we've got one of my other ventures is with a partner, and we are investigating different ideas. And I realized that we're talking about things and we get white hot excited about them in the room. And then what are we going to do with it? So I've started instituting the standard. What are we going to do next week to test the idea? And if we don't have an idea to test it next week, okay, let's give it away, because we're obviously not moving with it. Because the testing thing can be remarkably cheap to do, right? If you're sort of trying to figure out, okay, what do we think about that market? And if we're not willing to put in that little bit of time to be asking that first question of the market, we're probably telling ourselves again that it's not really as hot as we thought it was. It's just fun to talk about.
Right. Are you in the boiler room, or is there actually something you want to do, right?
How often does the ideas that you give out actually get picked up and become reality?
In dribs and drabs, maybe once a month. And that's pretty cool when I see like somebody implementing it as part of what they're doing. Like, hey, that's pretty great. That means there's some heat there. And frankly, somebody else picking it up doesn't mean that I can't be doing that later. It's just validation in their context that can be brought around in a different way.
Yeah, I had a cool conversation with this this dude on Twitter, and he had mentioned that he wants to create like something to create GIFs with. Like you can create your own GIF. I'm not sure what his idea was, but I had mentioned like I would want something that I could create really cool interactive GIFs, like how you record your screen on your like product GIFs to easily embed into your website, and you could you record it, what your product does, and then it'll send it into the application, and you can from there you can trim it up real quick, and then add like some really cool text and like shapes to it to give it a little more flair. And he's apparently going to build it out. So I was just like, yeah, that's cool, dude. Let me know if you need any help on any insights on what I'm thinking. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is actually a useful utility. I do that myself, right? Yeah. I don't usually I don't chaz them up, but I record the screen and then I throw it into one of those online video to GIF converters. And
yeah, I mean, it's so like I wanted to do it all the time, and I just like I have to like bring things together to do it, and it's just kind of like it looks half-assed.
Yeah, like a Loom style ease of use, but with annotation or overlays, and then different formats to export, right?
Yeah, and you can embed it into no-code platforms if you're building on a no-code platform like your website or something like that.
Yeah. So there's got to be idea platforms already, right? Because we are all idea people, and some of us hold them closer to the chest than others. But I like that, Ray. I was actually thinking about starting a section on my blog where I just jot them. What I jot down right now in private, I jot it down there, and it is where it is. If someone finds it and wants to run with it, maybe have a comment section or something, that's great. But there's got to be a service. Someone has a platform built for this already, I'm sure. Does anyone know?
For like ideas, like sharing ideas?
Yeah, I mean, not like, I think the key is, did you just come up with something and you have one sentence of what it does, like Uber for X? Or did you actually already put some thought into it, right? The more thought is into it, the more convincing an idea is. Maybe there's already some proof, already some validation. Then it might make sense. Because, I mean, everyone has a million ideas every day. So I don't know how valuable those are.
I think there needs to be an execution application. Yeah, I don't know. I know I've come across something like on Product Hunt once or twice, but very random. I can't remember.
I mean, if you're looking for ideas, just kind of just shot over at you, there's actually I can send it after the call. I need to look it up, but there's an email that's automatically produced using GPT-3 that it's something like ideas dot whatever, and basically GPT-3 is actually aggregating and creating ideas and sending them across based on what's finding, off the net and the trends and things like that.
Yeah. Is it
How
like
good is that?
5 ideas a day or something like that? There's a dude who does that. There's a dude who does that. 5 ideas a day or something like that.
Yeah, no, this is just all curated by GPT-3. So
okay, that's wild.
Yeah, I personally don't have the problem that I have a lack of ideas. I'm also allowed to just get rid of them. But it's interesting, like why I'm thinking about it is because it's part of the bigger co-starting methodology, right? Where I believe that if there was a framework or a place where these ideas live without, the ego in the way, where whoever came up with it is fine and whoever is still associated with it brings it forward and the idea lives by itself and you get a piece of it, you contribute to it somehow, right? Like these are all the questions of co-starting, which I think that's where the value gets created, right? The idea itself is there's no value in it. As you make it an actual thing and the utility, a product, something which creates value for others, now it becomes valuable. And if you can become a part of that along the way, that'd be super, super interesting. That's kind of one part of the platform potential I see for co-starting.
Yeah, what if you put value in your idea? So you make a platform like this, people can put in their ideas, they can like go as detailed as they want or like just throw in a sentence, whatever. And then some other people can pick it up. And if it gets, I don't know, successful, the person who implemented it gets maybe 99.5% or whatever, but the person who gave the idea is like still a little tiny bit, maybe.
Yeah. That's exactly how I think about co-starting, right? Like it's collaboratively starting and executing and bringing it to life. So over time, like how you decide on who gets what and how much for what contribution is the tricky part to figure out. But it does start with the idea. Generally speaking, it's easier if you already have a started product or a started company or something than just an idea. Probably also to build the following. But what we are doing here, right, like the building in public, the audience building, the cohorts, all of that, in my mind, plays together because it'll create that following, and it goes beyond that, right? But I think I have the feeling so far it still needs a mindset shift from a lot of people, because even if that system existed, which measures contribution and assigns reward based on that, it's still, most people still need to get over their ego. It's not mine. I am a part of it as long as I stay a part of it, and the more I contribute to it, the more I can get of the potential reward. But the idea is in itself an entity, right? I can just choose to become a part of that and a contributor.
All right, I have to jump. This has been a neat conversation, everyone. It's a pleasure meeting y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, I find that generally pretty interesting because there are still a lot of people, and I sometimes like that myself, who really think, I mean, their idea is like the most amazing thing in the world. Don't share it with anyone, otherwise people will copy it, people will do it, but nobody actually does. It's so funny because I was talking to a friend of mine like about the whole co-starting thing, and then like also what I'm building, and he immediately said, but aren't you afraid that like when it's on YouTube that people will just copy it or whatever they can? And I was like, yeah, well, if they want to do it, they can do it. I mean, it's not really a super unique idea. I just think the concept I'm bringing to it, I can make it unique, kind of. So it's
right?
Yeah, it's about the execution a little bit.
Like you see so many Me Too products out there, and they have great businesses, like so many.
Well, there's always room for one more, right? If the market supports that. And I agree. And take that one level beyond that, right? Instead of being afraid of copying each other, like if it wasn't your idea, Timo, or even if it was, but like we have now this new mindset, right? Let's turn it on for a second, where we think differently and it's like, oh shit, I would love to work on that. And the more I put in, I could eventually have more of that reward, not the idea. The idea is never going to be mine, but I have more reward than you even are as the originator, right? If that mindset shift was there, then all of the people who find that particular idea interesting should come together, not compete.
Yeah.
And make that one product the product, right? Wouldn't that be great? But I don't know. This is not how our society thinks. So
Yeah, unfortunately not. Everybody's greedy and everybody thinks, yeah, well, it's my idea. It's supposed to be mine 100%. I don't want to share with anyone. It's a little bit stupid, I think. But yeah, it would be great for sure, I think.
You know, they just kind of flipping it around a little bit. I wonder if you guys ever had ideas that you would just wish someone else would build. It's like, I need this utility. Please build this, right? Like, I don't care. It's my idea. It's probably not my idea. I just have this need. So I wonder if like you do it kind of like a staking model, right? Like say, hey, you know what? Here's this problem that I have. I will pay someone $500 to execute this. And then other people can come in and say, it's like Kickstarter, right? It's like, dude, if you build it, I'll use it. I'll be your first customer. I will buy, for $300, I'll pay for the first year or something like that. I wonder if it's kind of presented in that way. I wonder if maybe people may think differently instead of like trying to have ownership of the idea, but more of like, I just want to be a user of the solution.
Right. I like that because it's the same thing, but you just reframed it a little bit, right? Where you say, like a Kickstarter, you described it, right? Like, I have this problem. I would pay for it if someone built it. Who else would pay for this? And then whoever chooses to, again, in that co-starting kind of mentality, just jump on and be part of the solution, then they will get the reward, right? There's lots of open questions still on how do you assemble that team and organize it, but I agree. I think it needs to exist. Obviously, this is why I'm doing it.
That already kind of solves the identifying your customer thingy. So if people tell you I'm a customer of this, if you build it, so yeah, why not? But
now,
then, like,
go ahead, Timo. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if it's out in the open, and then you as a builder, you always risk that, like, I don't know, 500 other people build it too, just because they saw it there, and then maybe it's not as valuable anymore as you might.
Well, that's why it needs to be facilitated, right? Like that's why the way to create it actually needs to be coming together, not okay, now you all know that I want this, go build it and give me your proposals. Like not RFP style.
Yeah.
I don't think that would work. I mean, it does actually, right? Like, so freelancer.com has the contests, which is basically the same thing on a smaller level, where you can say, hey, if you create, this tattoo of a VW Beetle for me, I'll pay for it. And you actually don't even have to guarantee the project. And then you get 20 submissions. If you like one, you pay for it. If you don't, you don't. But I don't think that would work on a company level, right? Like we're talking about bigger, kind of more complex projects and problems.
Now, for co-starting, do you ever have people approach you and say, hey, you know what, I want to do something, but I just don't have a good idea to work on?
Not to that extent yet. I did talk to some people who said that they like the concept, and they kind of, they go back and forth on ideas and they needed to decide on something first. No one so far said flat out, is like, I want to be a part of it. Can you help me find an idea? But, even Timo, I think, right? Like this was something which you didn't already intend to build. Like it was just something you were thinking about before. And then you decided, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity with this cohort to start it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it should exist, let's say, or something that I envisioned. So I would have used it if someone else would have built it let's say, to my satisfaction. But yeah, nobody did yet. So I was like, yeah, I want to build it, but I never really thought about really committing to it. But then Sven came with the coStarting thingy, and I thought, yeah, it might be good to do it. And as of now, it really helps me, to be honest, to stay on track, to work on it every day, especially like the tweeting and the blogging and stuff. And that's the thing I really want to keep going even after the cohort. I really want to do that because I find that very valuable. It's nice.
Yeah. But I'm curious to see how it, like, because again, my audience is very, very small still, right? Now that I have to sign up for a wait list, I could see that. Like, I got 2 submissions from that so far. One was an actual idea with name already. The other one was an email. So I think it was a valid submission, but just like a dash in the what's your idea and why do you want to join, right? So I'm reaching back out and I'm staying in touch, but I don't know if they like the concept or if they just didn't want to fill it out. Not sure.
I gotta hop
Well, if you were
off.
to add a, sorry, go ahead.
I just gotta hop off.
See you, Steve.
I'll talk to you
All
guys
right,
later.
see you. Bye-bye.
See ya.
What if you were to add a idea bank to the coStart site and see what happens? And then I can send you the link to the GPT-3 one, and then you'll just get pounded with ideas. Actually, a lot of them are pretty interesting because also in the email it allows people to upvote it, so you can actually kind of see what is actually getting some I wouldn't call it traction, but some interest.
Right. Yeah. I think to take this to the level with like how you proposed, right, where it's the Kickstarter for ideas, I think you need to put down your credit card, right, and say, hey, this is how much I would pay for it if it existed. It won't charge you, kind of thing, but that you actually see real commitment. But like, again, there needs to be a lot before that. I'm starting to reach out to the experts from a crypto and tokenization perspective now, because I still think that seems to be the logical part to do the reward system, hopefully also the measurement in a way. And by the way, there is another very interesting project I found, I got recommended today, about tokenized community, which, Louis, we should talk about this too, which might even apply for your, not a community. Certainly does for coStarting, because I would love to, instead of charging for the community, I'd love the community to become valuable, and anyone who wants to be a part of it can be, right? So like you kind of have a tokenized system around it. If you are contributing in these calls, however you're contributing, again, we need to measure that, you get these tokens, and you can also just buy into them if you want to, but you have that inherent value system behind it, which I think is pretty interesting. How this all works in detail, that's what would need to be built. But there are communities out there like this, which are doing similar things. I don't know if they assign the value manually or not, though.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, man. As you're going through that, if you come over anything interesting, just shoot it over or just pop it in Slack.
Yeah, I'm going to take it one step further, or that's a plan at least. So as I go through the different pillars of coStarting and talk to these experts, I'm going to do that in public too, right? So I'm intending to share that all on YouTube eventually. Cool. Awesome. Anything else exciting happen you guys want to share in the last minutes here?
No.
All good.
Boring lives. Cool. Well, this was a pretty interesting, actually, conversation. There was a couple of people who didn't make it, it seems. There's a couple of people who said they would hop on today, but there's always next week. So thanks for being here. As always, lovely to talk all of these new ideas and idea validations through today. I think there is something which we need to keep mulling on.
Sweet. All right. Have a great week, everybody.
You too.
Bye.
See you guys.
See you. Bye bye.